1 week later, he was standing there, trembling, in a crowded government hall, as my father, the governor of California, introduced me in front of every department head. "This is my son." Yes, he tried to destroy my relationship, my career, and my reputation, all because he had no idea who I was, until it was too late. Welcome to the Reddit channel. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on exciting stories. My name is Nathan Grant. I'm 27 years old and the only son of James Grant, the governor of California. But here's the thing, no one around me ever knew that. I never used my last name to gain favors. Never dropped governor's son to impress anyone. I believe that respect, if it's not earned through your own effort, is just decoration. So I kept my life simple. I lived in a modest city 2 hours from Sacramento, ran my own small software company, drove an old pickup truck, wore hoodies, not suits, and told absolutely no one about who my father was. I wanted to know who really saw me and who only saw the name. That's when I met Emma. She worked in a shopping center as a marketing assistant. We met when I brought my phone in for repairs, and she was handling a difficult customer nearby. I was drawn to how calm she was, how sharp her eyes looked under pressure. There was this quiet confidence about her that I couldn't shake. 2 weeks later, we were dating. Emma never asked about my family. She didn't care about my car or the way I dressed. She loved the way I talked about ideas, the way I looked at her like she was the only thing in the room. Everything was perfect until she invited me over to meet her father. It was a Sunday afternoon. Emma warned me that her dad could be a little intense, but insisted he was a good man. I wasn't worried. I brought a bottle of wine and a box of my mom's homemade holiday cookies. The moment I stepped inside, I saw him, George Weston, reading a newspaper in the living room, eyes cold and calculating. He looked me up and down like I was some stain on the carpet. "You're Nathan?" he asked, without even bothering to shake my hand. "Yes, sir. It's nice to meet you," I replied politely, extending my hand. He ignored it. "So, what do you do for a living?" "I run a small startup. We provide data management software for mid-sized businesses." He gave a smirk that stung more than any insult. "Startup, huh? That's just a trendy word for someone who hasn't made it yet, right?" I froze. Emma walked in from the kitchen, clearly uncomfortable. "Dad," she started, but he wasn't done. "I work at the state office. I know real tech guys. None of them drive clunkers like the one parked outside, or dress like they're still in college." I said nothing, just smiled. Emma pulled me outside to the garden, where she had set up dinner. I could tell she was embarrassed, but I wasn't mad. I was used to being underestimated. What he didn't know was that he worked for my father. Yes, George Weston, the man who just humiliated me, was a department head under Governor James Grant, and he had no idea who I really was. The dinner that day ended awkwardly, and I didn't go home right away. Emma and I drove out to a quiet lake nearby, windows down, music low. She kept apologizing over and over. "You didn't deserve that. If you don't want to continue this." "I understand," she whispered. I looked at her. I wasn't angry. "I'm not here for his approval," I told her. "I'm here for you." She smiled, but I could still see the sadness in her eyes. Emma had always been caught between two worlds, wanting to follow her heart, but still craving her father's approval. And I didn't blame her. A week later, my father asked me to attend the annual State Department Strategic Summit with him in Sacramento. Normally, I skip these events, but this time, he wanted me to present a pilot project, an AI-driven platform my company had been developing to help digitize the state's public record systems. I wore a suit, brought my pitch materials, walked into the big, polished government hall, and that's when I heard it. "Governor, you made it. I prepared the department reports. All I need is your green light to move forward." I turned around, and there he was, George Weston, Emma's father, the same man who looked me up and down like I was garbage just a week ago. And now, he was standing at attention in front of my father. My dad shook his hand with a polite smile, then turned to me. "Nathan, my son, this is George Weston, head of internal records. You two know each other." I nodded. George froze. He stared at me like his brain couldn't catch up. "Why, you're his—" "Nathan Grant," I said calmly. "Governor's son." And then I walked past him and headed to the stage. His face? Pale, mouth slightly open, like someone had pulled the floor out from under him. I gave my presentation. Clean, efficient, sharp. I showcased our software's potential, how it could modernize state operations, streamline workflow, reduce taxpayer costs. People loved it. Even the federal observers took notes. The applause was real. And George? He didn't clap. He just sat there, still, like he was trying to remember every arrogant word he had said to me over roast chicken and red wine. I didn't speak to him that day. I didn't need to. That night, Emma called. "You're really the governor's son?" I paused. "Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I didn't want you to fall in love with a last name." There was silence on the line. Then she said, "You know what? That makes me love you more." I smiled, and then she added something I'll never forget. "Dad hasn't said a single word since he got home. Just sat there staring at the TV. But it wasn't even on." The next morning, I got a text from Emma. "Dad wants to have dinner. Just the two of you. He says he wants to talk." I wasn't surprised. George Weston was the type of man who knew how to pivot when the wind changed. Arrogant when he thinks he's above you. Humble, well, performatively humble, when he realizes he just insulted the governor's son. He didn't want reconciliation. He wanted a second chance to climb. I replied, "I'll go, but just to listen." We met at a fancy Italian restaurant, one I'm sure he never would have invited me to before. He stood when I arrived, smiling, offering his hand. This time, he shook mine firmly, almost desperately. "Nathan, thank you for coming. I want to apologize if I said anything out of line the other night." I sat down, expression neutral. "You don't need to apologize. You're just being honest about someone you thought you understood." He flinched slightly, but kept smiling. "Look, I only want what's best for my daughter. A man who can give her security, stability." I nodded slowly. Then he leaned in. "And let's be honest, someone like you, with your connections, you could help move the right people into the right roles. Including me." There was the real reason. He didn't care about Emma's happiness. He saw me as a stepping stone, one he had insulted by mistake, and now hoped to turn into a ladder. I leaned back in my chair. "You want to use your daughter's relationship to push your own career? That's not what I meant." "Sure it is," I said. "Let's not pretend, George." He looked embarrassed, but I wasn't done. "You know, I used to respect men like you. Career government workers. Detail-oriented. Resilient. But after what you pulled that night," I stood up. I realized something. Not every grown man is actually mature. And with that, I left. That night, I didn't tell Emma anything. But the next morning, she came to my place, eyes puffy, holding her phone. "He said if I stay with you, I'm choosing a dead end. That you're just using your father's name to pretend you've made it." She looked crushed. "What do I do?" I took her hand. "Live for yourself. If you want to go back, I won't stop you. But if you stay, then I promise I'll never let you regret it." She didn't answer. She just fell into my arms, and I knew she was staying. After Emma moved in with me, things were calm for about 3 days. Then the games began. A surprise audit from the state tax division, courtesy of a friend George had in the department. A long-standing tech contract I'd negotiated with the state education office, delayed indefinitely. Rumors were circulating that my company lacked the technical credentials. I didn't have to guess who was behind it. Only one person had the motive, the access, and the ego to pull this off. I didn't tell Emma. I didn't want to burden her. But when she saw me working until 3 a.m. every night, rechecking documents and rewriting compliance reports, she broke down. "It's him, isn't it? My dad." I said nothing, but my silence was answer enough. She collapsed to the floor, crying. "I'm so sorry. This is all my fault." I knelt beside her. "No, Emma, this is on him, not you." A week later, I went to see my father. I laid everything out, not to ask for favors, but so he knew that someone under his command was using state power to settle personal scores. My father listened carefully. "What do you want me to do?" he finally asked. "Nothing," I said. "Let him bury himself." The opportunity came faster than expected. I was invited to speak at the statewide Digital Innovation Conference, a prestigious event where government officials and private sector leaders meet to discuss tech reforms. George was there, and this time, He wouldn't even look at me. On stage, I presented our AI-driven platform. Clean, efficient, powerful. The audience? Enthralled. The applause? Deafening. And then I said this. I want to thank the unexpected challenges, the surprise audits, the quiet whispers behind closed doors. Because nothing proves your worth like surviving when someone wants to see you fail. That was the final blow. 3 days later, George was under internal investigation for attempting to remove my company from a bidding list without any technical justification. And my father? He let the investigation run its course. That night, George came to see me. No suit, no smug grin, just a broken man in a wrinkled shirt. "You were right," he said. "I judged you too quickly, and now I might lose everything." He paused, then added, "Please, don't let this ruin my relationship with Emma. You can hate me, but don't make her choose between us." I stared at him. "You made her choose when you tried to control her." He looked away. "Then what should I do?" I sighed. "Be her father, not her prison." And then I walked away. A year passed. My company was thriving. Emma had joined my team as the head of communications. We got engaged, not with flash or fanfare, but on a quiet evening. She lay in my arms and whispered, "If I were a bride one day, would you be waiting at the end of the aisle?" I didn't say a word. I just pulled out the ring I'd been carrying for 3 months. She cried and laughed and said yes. Our wedding was simple, held in a beautiful garden. No press, no suits of armor, just love. My father sat in the second row. No speeches, no grand titles, just Dad and George. He came, not as an official, not as a man trying to impress, just as a father. And when it came time for someone from the family to speak, my dad motioned for him to take the mic. George stepped forward, his hands shaking slightly. "Today, I'm not standing here as a department head or a government man," he said. "I'm just a father." He looked at me, then at Emma. His voice cracked. "I used to think the right man for my daughter needed power, a name, influence. But today I know what she needed was someone who would put her first every single day." He turned to Emma. "Sweetheart, I try to keep you safe by holding too tight. But I see now I was pushing you away. So from this day on, I'll stand behind you. Quietly, proudly, and always ready if you ever need me." The crowd was silent. Emma was crying, and so was I. I walked up to him and shook his hand, this time not as his adversary, but as his family. As Emma walked toward me, veil floating behind her, tears in her eyes, and the brightest smile I've ever seen, I realized something. We made it. Despite the titles, the insults, the games. Love won. Just Emma and me. No last names. No power plays. Just us.